Adrian N. Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a regular session of the City Council to be held on Monday, July 1st, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting such business that may properly come before the City Council.
Good evening and welcome to a regular session of the Dubuque City Council for July 1st, 2024. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during the sections of the agenda where public input is accepted. Input options during the live meeting include in-person attendees may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there's any public input on the item they would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access code that appear on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which item you would like to speak to in the chat function or note that you would like to speak during the appropriate section. If you are participating via phone, indicate which item you would like to speak to during the appropriate section. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. This information will be reiterated during the meeting. Attendance for the session is as follows. Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Farber.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
Wethel.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
Thank you. And City Attorney Brumwell.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Kavanaugh, I will turn it over to you for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Adrian. I invite all who are able to please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will move on to consent items. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the consent items, please approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there's any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Please state the item you would like removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and consideration. And consent items can be found on pages 2 through 5 of the agenda.
Thank you, Adrian. Do we have anyone who would like to remove any items from the consent agenda for separate discussion this evening? I see no one here. Do we have anyone virtually?
No one virtually.
All right, thank you very much, Adrian. And back to the table then for any discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
Number 23, please.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file the documents, adopt the resolutions, and deal with the consent items as recommended, except for number 23.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Resnick and a second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0. So for number 23, I think I've been trying to keep it clean as we do this, so I'll take a motion. Please put it on the table for discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to receive and file number 23.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jones.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Jones and a second by Sprank. Mr. Jones.
The memorandum we have here is from the 27th, 4 days ago. I'm hoping that things have changed. Perhaps we get an update from Alexis.
Alexis Steiger, Housing and Community Development Director. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. So we do have some updates. We've been in contact with both Dave Zinser and Steve Emerson since the date of the memo. Steve Emerson was under the assumption that Zinser had been paid and sent him a check last Wednesday. Zinser hadn't received the check, so he had not scheduled to be on site. As of today, Emerson said that he has contacted Dave Zinser and he'll be back on site next week. We will continue to cite Mr. Emerson until they do make it back to the site. We are hoping that that money exchange happened because Zinser was not going to come back until he had been paid.
Neither would I. The question that I have for staff to look at, what's our B plan? Or can we make a B plan? Can we hire a contractor to clear 30th Street and open it, to remove whatever structure needs to be removed to open that street? and to give our neighborhood back to the people that own it, because this has gone on years too long. And I know it's not your fault, and I know a lot of it's not Mr. Emerson's fault, but the fact that nobody's working on that right now today is his fault. And the citations back that up. And I want him cited every single day that nothing happens out there. And I want us looking at a solution to get 30th Street open. That comes with, it's obviously his liability to pay for it. So if we hire a contractor to do that, he can expect, I would presume, that we would initiate some collection against him to try and recover that cost or tack it on to the lien to his property. We may have to borrow the money, I'm not sure. But I'm sure that the people living in the neighborhood deserve and need their neighborhood back. They need their homes back. They need the use of their garages back. They need the use of their front porches back. And we got to find a way to give it to them.
And we do have that plan B, A, B, and C for those. We actually started that initially with the first letter of demolition. So we do have the ability to abate the issue. As a city, of course, we have to bear that cost initially and then try to seek that fund back. And so that's why there's a B, C, and many other asterisks that we're still working on. To ensure that we can recover those funds. We don't want that to be left out for our budget to try to cover. So that is where we're in the logistics, but we started that a long time ago, so we should be having those solutions to City Council should we see nothing moving next week.
Mr. Mayor, this is City Manager Mike Van Milligan.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. I just don't want anybody to believe that those alternate solutions is imminent. So we're going to pursue aggressively over time this enforcement activity with the goal of getting this resolved. May it end up in a different arena at some point in time, which is the arena of the taxpayers paying for it and then trying to get their money. That could happen, but it is not imminent.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Jones, you have anything further?
No, I get that. That's not cash that's readily available, but we may need to make it a little more imminent.
Anyone else? Yeah, Mr. Sprank?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is Mr. Emerson being fined daily, like on the calendar, or a business day? So like, do the weekends count?
So no, because we do not expect that construction would continue on a weekend. It's also infeasible for staff that doesn't work on a weekend to site on a weekend and follow through on knowing if they had been there or not. So it is a Monday through Friday citation.
That's fair, I guess. I mean, if he's renting the equipment, though, they rent it by the day. So it would be nice if he could do something. But I understand. I mean, citizens they're just tired of this whole situation. I mean, I feel like we're just getting our chain yanked by this guy. He doesn't care, and it's frustrating. And I understand we don't want to take him to court. We don't want the taxpayers to pay for this either. This is his property, his mess, but they want the streets open so they can actually use their alleys, use their garages, and not look at the pile of bricks. That's his mess that he's made. So thank you for what you're doing. Appreciate it.
Anyone else? Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is that we are dealing with this and trying to do so in the most responsible way possible, considering that any other options do involve spending taxpayer money in some way, shape, or form to be able to get this done, and hoping to get that back. So I appreciate that we are pushing. I appreciate that we are using enforcement to be able to keep this going. So thank you for your work, Alexis, and that of your team.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, motion here is to receive and file. Motion by Jones and a second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Jones. Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next are items set for public hearing. We have 3. First is initiate public improvement bidding process and set public hearing, Jefferson Park retaining wall project for July 15th, 2024. Second is Locust Street parking ramp repairs project, initiate public bidding process and setting date for public hearing project for July 15th, 2024. And third is resolution of necessity for the proposed urban renewal plan for the Mount Pleasant Place Housing Urban Renewal Area for August 5th, 2024.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Russell?
I move to receive and file, adopt the resolutions, and set the public hearings for the dates specified.
Second, Vice Frank.
Motion by Roussel and a second by Sprink. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next are boards and commissions. We have appointments for the Arts and Cultural Affairs Advisory Commission, the Board of Library Trustees, Cable Television Commission, Civic Center Advisory Commission, Equity and Human Rights Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, Housing Appeals and Mediation Board, Investment Oversight Advisory Commission, Long Range Planning Advisory Commission, Park and Recreation Advisory Commission, Zoning Advisory Commission, and the Airport Zoning Commission.
All right, thank you, Adrian. All right, this will take us a little bit here, but we're just going to go through these one by one. So I'll try to give instructions and be clear as we go through. Our first is the Arts and Cultural Affairs Advisory Commission. We have one 3-year term through June 30th, 2027. We have 2 applicants. We have Franco Menchaca and Nicole Nutter. I think the easiest on this particular one would be to have a roll, please. Adrian, if we could go through and call the roll, and everyone can identify one name that you want on this particular commission, please.
Resnick.
Nicole Nutter.
Kavanaugh.
Franco Menchaca.
Roussel.
Franco Menchaca.
Jones.
Nicole Nutter.
Wethel.
Franco Menchaca.
Farber.
Franco Menchaca.
Sprank.
Franco Menchaca.
All right, so Franco Menchaca is appointed to the Arts and Cultural Affairs Advisory Commission. Next is the Board of Library Trustees. We have one 4-year term through July 1st, 2028, and one applicant, Christina Monk. So I will entertain a motion for this one, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move that we appoint Christina Monk to the 4-year term through July 1, 2028.
Second by Farber.
Trustees.
We got a motion by Jones and a second by Farber here. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel. Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Motion passes 7-0. Next up is the Cable Television Commission. We have one 3-year term through July 1st, 2027, and one applicant, Jennifer Tiggis. I would entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Russell.
I move that we appoint Jennifer Tiggis to the Cable Television Commission.
Second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Russell and a second by Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Jones. Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0. Next up, we have the Civic Center Advisory Commission. Here we have 2 3-year terms through June 29th, 2027. I'm going to handle these separately, so I'll entertain a motion for the first term, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move that Bryce Parks be reappointed to the Civic Center Advisory Commission for a 3-year term.
Second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Jones and a second by Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. We have one more term. Hearing no motion for that term. We'll move on to the Equity and Human Rights Commission then. We have 3 terms here. So 2 of those are 3-year terms through January 1st, 2027. One is a 3-year term through January 1st, 2025. Let's handle the 2 3-year terms through January 1st, 2027 first, please. So I think the easiest way to do this one, because we have 5 applicants. We have Rick Baumhover, David Heyer, Nicole Nutter, Ashley Regan, and Lucilina Bravo. So what I would ask is that we take the first term, and I would like to hear, we'll do a roll, please, from Adrian, and everyone can choose a name that they want to appoint, please.
Resnick.
David Heyer.
Kavanaugh.
David Heyer.
Roussel.
David Heyer.
Jones.
David Heyer.
Wethel.
David Heyer.
Farber.
David Heyer.
Sprank.
David Heyer.
So David Heyer is appointed to the first 3-year term through January 1st, 2027. We will now take the second 3-year term through 27, please.
Resnick.
Nicole Nutter.
Kavanaugh.
Rick Baumhover.
Roussel.
Luzalena Bravo.
Jones.
Nicole Nutter.
Wethel.
Luzalina Bravo.
Farber.
Nicole Nutter.
Sprank.
Rick Baumhover.
Okay, so we have 3 for Nicole Nutter is my count. Is that what we have? Okay, so Nicole Nutter is appointed to the 3-year term through January 1st, 2027. So now we will take the 3-year term through January 1st, 2025.
Resnick,
Rick Baumhover.
Kavanaugh,
Rick Baumhover.
Roussel,
Luz Elena Bravo.
Jones,
Rick Baumhover.
Wethel,
Rick Baumhover.
Farber,
Lucelina Bravo.
Sprank.
Rick Baumhover.
So we have 5 votes for Rick Baumhover by my count. So Rick Baumhover is appointed to the 3-year term through January 1st, 25. Okay. Moving on to the Historic Preservation Commission, we have 1 3-year term through July 1st, 2027, and 1 applicant, Tim Gao. I would entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that Tim Gao be appointed to the 1 3-year term.
Second.
We've got a motion by Sprank and a second by Roussel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick,
Aye.
Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Roussel,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Wethel,
Aye.
Farber,
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. And Tim Gao is appointed to the Historic Preservation Commission. Next is the Housing Appeals and Mediation Board. We have 1 3-year term through January 1st, 2027, and 1 applicant, January Tyler. I'd entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we appoint January Tyler to the 1 3-year term.
A motion, any second? Not hearing a second. So we will move on to the Investment Oversight Advisory Commission. We have 1 3-year term through July 1st, 2027, and 1 applicant, Molly Velasky.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Wethel.
I'll make a motion to appoint Molly Velasky to 1 3-year term expiring July 1st, 2027.
Second.
Got a motion by Wethel and a second by Roussel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick,
Aye.
Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Roussel,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Wethel,
Aye.
Farber,
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Next up, Long Range Planning Advisory Commission. We have 1 3-year term through July 1st, 2027, and 1 applicant, Aaron Miller. Entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move that Aaron Miller be appointed to the 3-year term through July 1, 2027 on the Long Range Planning Advisory Commission.
Second by Farber.
Got a motion by Jones and a second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick,
Aye.
Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Roussel,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Wethel,
Aye.
Farber,
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Next up, Park and Recreation Advisory Commission. We have 1 3-year term through June 30th, 2027, and here we have 2 applicants, Tyler Dahlstrom and Jennifer Tigas. So I think I'm going to ask for a roll call on this one, please.
Resnick,
Jennifer Tigas.
Kavanaugh,
Jennifer Tigas.
Roussel,
Tyler Dahlstrom.
Jones,
Jennifer Tigas.
Wethel,
Jennifer Tigas.
Farber,
Jennifer Tigas.
Sprank.
Jennifer Tigas.
So Jennifer Tigas will be appointed to the Park and Recreation Advisory Commission. Next up, Zoning Advisory Commission, 1 3-year term through July 1st, 2027, and 1 applicant, Rich Russell. Entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Russell.
I move to appoint Rich Russell to the Zoning Advisory Commission.
Second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Russell and a second by Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick,
Aye.
Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Roussel,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Wethel,
Aye.
Farber,
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0. And then, I believe, yes, our final vote for the commissions is Airport Zoning Commission. We have 1 cross-representative whose term will coincide with a cross-representative cross-represented on a board or commission. The applicant here is Rich Russell, so I'd entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Wethel.
make a motion to appoint Rich Russell to the Airport Zoning Commission.
Second.
We've got a motion by Wethel and a second by Roussel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick,
Aye.
Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Roussel,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Wethel,
Aye.
Farber,
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Thanks for everyone's patience on that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just a comment. There's a whole long list of names, and we saw the applications for each of the individuals applying. But at the council meeting prior to this, each of them was invited to come to that microphone and introduce themselves and tell us why they'd like to serve, and almost none of you did. And I don't know you. I don't know you from your application. And I might have questions, I might not. But you sure make it easier if you stand there and look at us and tell us why you want to do this. We need you to do it. We need the service. God love you for doing it. We couldn't operate this city without the commissioners and board members that fill in the details and fill in the blanks for us to help us make good decisions. But we'd sure like to see you before we appoint you.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Mr. Jones, and I'll just close it out to say that, it's really important service on these boards and commissions, and it's something that I know we take very seriously. We do our very best to try and make sure that the process for application is working well and that we are making these decisions with good information. We do receive some good information through the applications that we have, but it would be extremely helpful to hear from applicants directly, and that can be in multiple different ways. It can be right here in front of us at a council meeting. It can also be in writing. We do receive emails a lot of the time to make sure that we hear a little bit more from people. So I do appreciate that comment.
Thanks for mentioning that, because I didn't. I know everybody can't run down here on a Monday night, and we've got some detailed emails from people saying, hey, I can't be there on Monday, but I want to introduce myself, and here's why I want to serve. But, man, we'd like to know that. We'd like to know that.
Yeah. One more comment, Mr. Resnick.
Well, I just wanted to comment and agree with you, because just like we are, they're serving the public, and the public would like to know who to speak to, who these people are, and it's really an obligation, I think, to let the public know who is serving them and their reasons for wanting to serve. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Resnick. Okay, we can move on, Adrian. Thank you.
Next is public input. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting may address the City Council on the action items on the agenda or on matters under the control of the City Council. For all in-person attendees, please approach the podium and state your name and address when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Individual remarks are limited to 5 minutes, and the overall public input period is limited to 30 minutes. Under the Iowa Open Meetings Law, the City Council can take no formal action on comments given during public input or that do not relate to the action items on the agenda.
Thank you, Adrian. Do we have any public input this evening? I'm seeing faces I recognize in the crowd who are members of the public, but also members of staff. But I'm not seeing any members of the public here, so I will probably move on from that. Do we have any virtual input, Adrian?
No virtual input.
Okay, thank you. Then we can move on from public input to action items, please.
Action item number 1 is new Dubuque Developers Guide available.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Rousseau?
I move to receive, file, and approve, and see a presentation.
Second by Sprank.
Okay, got a motion by Roussel and a second by Sprank. I think we're going to you first for a memo.
There's a short little memo, but it essentially says Randy's going to share and present.
All right, then we'll go straight to Randy so he can present. Thank you, Randy.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Randy Gale, Public Information Officer, with a very brief presentation. The agenda does include a cover memo that explains what we did. We produced a developer's guide this spring. Public Information Office staff worked closely with our planning services staff, housing and community development, inspection and construction services, and economic development, as well as our partners at Greater Dubuque Development Corporation and some individual developers that work with Planning Services Manager Wally Wernemont. So we compiled information from all those groups and existing information and put it into a 16-page developer's guide. So we have a print version as well that will be printing copies and providing those to everyone that we worked with on this so that they have plenty of copies to share with developers and contractors and any organization that really wants to invest in our community. And the print version that does get delivered to them will also have a QR code inside it that will direct them to the webpage I'm going to briefly demonstrate to you. So the URL is very easy to remember. It's cityofdubuque.org/developers. And it includes all the information in the printed publication, obviously, but we really optimized it to view on a mobile device because we realize that contractors, developers are going to be out in the field possibly when they need to look at these things. So it starts out with which department people will need to contact depending upon the type of project. Then we have some accordion widgets, we call them, that have drop-downs answering all these questions or explaining why would you want to develop in Dubuque. So we have that type of information there, and then they can advance down to what does planning services do. And it has links to all these other documents, procedures, applications, permits. So this is kind of a one-stop shop or a starting point really for all the different information that they might need. As I mentioned here, permits, and it takes them directly to the applications where there are applications. Again, I'm not going to go through each of these, but you can see the headers for the type of information that's in there, programs and incentives. And again, takes them to more information depending upon the type of project they may have. Development partners that people may choose to work with on their projects, and that's where we have some of those partners that you work with all the time. And then, of course, key departments and contacts. This is where we list the departments and actually have names of those department managers or division managers, in this case with inspection and construction services. So again, getting a name and individual contact information out there in case people want to reach out to them directly. And then at the bottom of the page, we have links, more links to where people can upload their site plans to the actual building application, plumbing permit application. Just to see here, I'll show you. It takes to another page where then it has details on the application and the application process. Oops. So that is the landing page, but as you can see, there's a lot more there than just that landing page. It's a starting point. So as I said, this is going to be a very brief demonstration. You've got a nice flow going to the meeting here. I don't want to disrupt that. But I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about this project. I want to thank Jesse Gavin from the Public Information Office team that coordinated and all the staff that helped compile this information.
Great. Thank you very much, Randy. I'll kick us off here real quick. You know, we've had some great discussions about development in general throughout the community in the last year, and particularly about how the city involves itself in development and what the roles are and what kind of things we need. One of the biggest lessons I think we learned is that there were some real gaps in communication about what people need to know and when they need to know it. And this is yet another example of one of the great solutions that we've come up with to try and remedy that problem. So I just want to say thank you. I mean, I really appreciate the work that you and your team have done, and really everybody, because anybody who has anything to do with development was involved in this process, I know, and you put together the whole package in the end. And, you know, I recall, and this I believe was in the memo too, but, you know, this was an idea that came up from one of our directors. If I'm not mistaken, it was Alexis Steger who was kind of mentioning, and housing
work session,
development. Yeah, in the work session, mentioning that this was something that some other cities do. And that's a question that comes up a lot. You know, if other cities do this, then why not have something like that here in Dubuque? And it was something that I think developers kind of shook their head and said, yeah, that's a great idea. So this is just, it's in some ways kind of a no-brainer. You know, let's put it together and figure it out so that we can actually have some really good communication across the board and answer some of the questions that people have before they really have to ask them, because they get to read through all this. So I'm very impressed with it. I went through the whole site and I really, really like it. And looking forward to receiving more feedback on any ways we need to tweak it or change it. And I'm sure you'll be very, very responsive to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ms. Farber.
Yeah, I wanted to echo your comments, and also to, I'm sure that the business community is very appreciative of the work here, and that it is a living document, so therefore they can give you some input and some guidance from what works, what doesn't work. But this is just really a great piece of documentation here, and just really a nice way to start the communication, as you had said, and to get some feedback from the community. So thank you for doing it. It's a great guideline.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ms. Farber. Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I think our goal all around is to improve the ease of business in our city and to encourage development. And this, to me, knocks it out of the park. I'm so grateful for everybody's time and attention, and I'm very grateful for those developers in the community who came forward and shared concerns with us, but also got specific on these are the things that would help me to do my business with more ease, whether it was contractors or companies that are the developer initiating the activity. So thank you. not just to you, but as you said, to everyone who's on the team who helped pull this together, because I think this is a great example of people speaking, us listening, and taking action.
Thank you.
All right. Well, no further discussion or questions. Thank you very much, Randy, for the work and for the presentation. Motion here is to receive and file, approve, and hear that presentation. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 2 is Dubuque awarded $25 million federal RAISE infrastructure grant to build railroad overpass at 14th Street.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file.
Second by Sprank.
A motion by Resnick and a second by Sprank. Krenna, please, do you have?
This just has the press release attached to it.
Okay.
So there's not a memo. but we
No
wanted
memo.
to
Okay, I'm going to get this right one of these times. I think we have a memo for the next one, so I'll
Yes.
point to that. Perfect. Well, we've all seen the press release. I'll start us off again. I promise I won't do this every time, but I hope everybody can fully recognize how big this is. A RAISE grant is a really competitive grant. This is challenging for communities to get, and we worked really hard to do this with lots of different partners to make this a reality. And we heard tonight about something that I'm going to be honest with everybody, I didn't really fully connect how this tied into the Central and White traffic study until we just sat in that work session. That's a big deal, how this connects to so many different projects that we are working on. And I know that there's we're in a challenging, contentious time right now, just in the country in general. I don't think I need to necessarily say that out loud, but I think it's an important point to recognize because while we still are doing that, we are also getting work done. Like cities right now are where this work is happening, and we're doing it with really important partnerships. And we as a city have cultivated, and as a community, I should say, outside of the city government organization too, we have cultivated some really important relationships that are helping to get some of this work done by showing these projects to our partners in the federal government, saying this is what needs to get done, this is how it's going to help. They passed a bipartisan infrastructure law and supported our efforts in getting this grant. And I want to thank them again very publicly, especially the Biden administration for pushing this bipartisan infrastructure law from the start, for all the federal departments that are involved with it, but particularly the Department of Transportation. They've been very strong partners. We've obviously had Secretary Pete Buttigieg here visiting us to see this potential project in the planning phase, but also the folks that do the day-to-day work in the DOT have been very responsive and very helpful in getting all this done. But then also our congressional delegation, starting with Senator Grassley, who voted for the bipartisan infrastructure law, supported this application. Also, Senator Ernst supported this application, as well as our Congresswoman Hinson. So I appreciate all their work and the work of their staffs on this as well. It's a very exciting thing. Last thing I'll say is that I had the opportunity to speak with someone from the the Canadian Pacific Kansas City rail line when I was at the U.S. Conference of Mayors in this past week, because that's actually Kansas City is where it all kind of comes together. I've never quite seen so many rail lines as when you're in Kansas City. And it's a big part of how we move things across this country. And he confirmed we will have longer trains coming through. They will be more frequent. And they also, I want to make sure we say this, they are being very important partners in this process, and they're being very helpful as we go through it. So I appreciate the CPKC for being open and transparent about what this is going to look like, what the impacts are going to be on our community, and then also helping to support this, to be able to receive this grant and do this incredibly important work. So I will now be quiet and allow others to comment. Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I want to thank Mayor Kavanaugh for his leadership. I think that your connections and your hard work at building those relationships at our federal level is a big piece of why this happened. So thank you. I want everybody to know our goals and priorities are a big deal. And this year, well, August of last year, we made the RAISE grant and matching funds for construction a goal and priority, and we did it because we hoped this day would come, and it came. So the day I found out and got the phone call, I had the biggest smile on my face that my face hurt. I don't know how to describe it otherwise. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you to all of our city staff who did just an amazing job of really doing all of the legwork of this. It's a big deal, and I'm so grateful.
Thank you, Ms. Wethel. Yeah, Mr. Sprank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is huge. This is monumental. This is transformative. This is bringing people in and out of the north end, the downtown area. I couldn't be more excited to see when this project is done. I know there will be hiccups. That's just bound to happen with something of this scale. But I think that people just keep the impression that, oh, we're just building an overpass. No, there's additional roundabouts at 16th Street and the Sycamore intersection, so traffic can flow through that. We're also talking about building another roundabout at the Greyhound and Admiral Sheehy, so basically to get over to the casino or to the ice arena. Things that people just don't quite see that need to get traffic flowing. So I'm so excited on all the things that want to happen with this that I'm just going to be... I'm happy that it's moving forward, that it's going to be really neat, unless we know there'll be hiccups. So bear with the construction, but we'll all get through it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sprank. All right. Yeah, I think another thing you just pointed out is really important is I hope people can take a look at the, what this actually is going to be. It's not just the overpass. There's a whole lot that goes into this, and the whole complete streets aspect of it is one of the most exciting parts. So. All right, well, motion here is to receive and file. So, Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 3 is repeal of the Dubuque Historic Building Code.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
move to receive and file the communications and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for not passage, for passage.
For passage.
At 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed, be suspended. That's right, it's an ordinance to repeal the ordinance.
Second by Farber.
All right, we got a motion by Jones and a second by Farber. Krenna, please.
All right. Housing and Community Development Department Director Alexis Steger, along with the Housing and Community Development Department, the Planning Services Department staff, and the Historic Preservation Commission are recommending City Council approve the repeal of the Dubuque Historic Building Code located in Title 14, Chapter 5 of the City of Dubuque Code of Ordinances. When the Historic Building Code was approved, it provided for different building codes that could be used depending on the nature of the project. The Historic Building Code allowed a property owner to decide which code they would like to follow for a qualified historic building, and other codes or ordinances would not apply if the code or ordinance concerned a matter addressed in the Historic Building Code. An ongoing concern is that appellants are referencing the Historic Building Code as the code in effect for the entirety of the property, including maintenance, which is an incorrect interpretation. This language in the Historic Building Code creates confusion for the Building Advisory and Appeals Board and within the court system, complicating and delaying enforcement efforts. Ultimately, this is having the unintended consequence of allowing existing historic buildings to fall into disrepair. When the Historic Building Code was adopted in 2002, the city had not yet adopted the International Existing Building Codes. The International Existing Building Code contains many of the same provisions for design alternatives that are contained in the Historic Building Code. The International Existing Building Code, Chapter 12, specifically addresses historic buildings and applies to buildings of historical significance as determined by the State Historic Preservation Office. The International Existing Building Code, Chapter 13, includes the performance compliance method, which allows for existing buildings to be evaluated to show that alternatives, while not meeting new construction requirements, will improve the current existing situation. Provisions are based on a numerical scoring system involving 19 various safety parameters and the degree of code compliance for each issue. This is a direct replacement for the building evaluation method in the Historic Building Code located in Section 14-5-4 of the current code. The International Existing Building Code is also one in a family of codes by the International Code Council that are currently adopted by the city. This family of codes is regularly reviewed and updated. The International Existing Building Code works well together with the other codes, including the International Building Code, Residential Code, Fire Code, and Mechanical Code, all of which contain provisions for historic buildings. On June 20th, the repeal of the Historic Building Code was brought before the Historic Preservation Commission for discussion and review. The Historic Preservation Commission has recommended repeal of the Historic Building Code. Housing and Community Development Department, Planning Services Department staff, and the Historic Preservation Commission recommend repealing the Historic Building Code for the following reasons. 1, the present Historic Building Code has not been updated since its adoption in 2002, 22 years ago. 2, the city has adopted the 2021 International Existing Building Code, which allows alternatives and exceptions from code requirements when the building has historic value. 3, the International Existing Building Code is part of the International Code Council family of codes that are regularly updated. 4, the Historic Building Code has been used very infrequently since its adoption. And 5, the repealing of the Historic Building Code will remove a barrier to enforcement efforts to prevent ongoing deterioration of historic properties. The city manager concurs with the recommendation and respectfully requests mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Corinna. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Spring.
So, okay, contractor brain thinking here for a minute. I work on a number of historic buildings, and usually it's about the appearance of the outside. So if that's the case, folks won't have to follow those if they want, say, for example, they have wooden siding and they don't want to put the wooden siding back on. They want to put on traditional vinyl siding. Is that an acceptable option now? The way I'm reading this, just trying to boil it down to the easiest denominator.
Sure. So Housing Community Development Director Alexis Steger. Not necessarily. So you're thinking of the preservation that actually comes with deeming a property a historic structure. So the codes are still going to have a one-for-one type where you have to replace, if it's a wood window, you're looking to replace for a wood window when you're in a historic district. So that is still all written into the existing building, international existing building codes. So a lot, and it's not just out to the exterior. So you're thinking of the preservation of the exterior that's controlled by the Historic Preservation Office, the State Historic Preservation Office. The interior actually also can be affected by these codes. Things such as stair railings, lighting fixtures, electrical, all of those things can be historic in nature. And so to try to preserve them by meeting a bunch of different safety measures is actually part of the code. And that's what the one-for-one they're talking about in the 19 different things that you score to make sure it's still safe and preserved. So it can be interior or exterior, and it still does meet all the requirements for the state historic preservation if you were to work on an exterior of a building.
All right, that was my question. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Resnick.
Thank you very much. So we lived in a historic neighborhood and had a historic home, and we understood, like, I'm glad that you brought up the vinyl siding because someone in the neighborhood was hoping to use vinyl siding and was rejected and couldn't use it. But there are others. There's lots of different aspects, like we had a second floor porch, and the railing was, I think, too short for if you would build it today. So are there changes that people are going to be required to make? Nothing really changes because of this action tonight?
That is correct. Nothing changes. So your existing building code remains, meaning if it's an existing building, unless you are changing the structure, what you have in place exists and continue to exist as long as you are not altering the structure, right? As soon as you pull a permit to alter the structure, so if you want to change that porch, Then we run into historic codes that are built into the existing building codes. And railing height is one that's very, very, very common, and so it is dealt with directly in the codes that we have adopted, not the one we're repealing.
I see. Sorry.
I was just going to clarify, yes, so this comes into place when someone makes a change. So think of it in terms of large historical renovations where someone wants to modernize a building, but they want to keep the historical pieces of it. But we need to balance that with safety and modern day codes. And so that rubric of 19 different scores is a way to balance that. So while they may, with a railing, not get points because they want to keep the historic and not go to the modern day standard, they can gain points in some of those other areas of the code to meet the safety standards that we need them to meet.
Well, thank you, and thank you for these answers, and I'm impressed. And the Historic Preservation Commission is also for this, and that was important to me, obviously, that they've. And how long have you considered this question before us?
So we actually had it under consideration while we were adopting this version of the I-codes last year, and we're working through how to make sure that they're one for one, right? So we wanted to make sure we're not missing anything that we're repealing that couldn't be dealt with in the codes that we were adopting. So we didn't get through all of that to adopt it at the same time as the I-codes, and now we have finished that review. So we just wanted to make sure we put all those pieces in place, so it's been a good year.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Farmer.
I just have one question for Kenna. So I own historic properties, as you know, but if I were looking to have children in this facility, in the historic home, and the railing outside was too low, am I allowed to increase that for the child's safety, or do I have to maintain the low level of the railing there on that porch?
So you're actually looking at different things there. So your historic preservation is going to dictate what it must look like from the outside in a historic manner. A lot of times when that happens, you can put up different types of rail that still meet the historic standard, but can extend it up or see through other things that can meet that. When we talk about safety, it could stay that way, but if you're changing the use of the home, then you have to get it up to the code and meet those 19 prescriptive safety things, right? So
I understand that.
They're going to look at, can a kid fall through it? Can they put their head through it? It's a very long list.
Okay,
Takes
great,
a lot of work, but yes,
Okay, great.
is likely to need to be updated for the change of use, and then you would find a solution that is unlikely to be a traditional modern railing, right?
Correct, I agree to that. All right, thank you for that clarification.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Bethel. Yeah.
When I read through this, my thought was, okay, this is getting rid of a duplication of code that makes things confusing for contractors and homeowners. Is that correct?
That's very correct.
Okay, because when I first read repealing Dubuque's historic building code, I gotta tell you, but when I read through your memo, it was very helpful for me in understanding. So thank you for spelling it out for us, and thanks for clarification.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it that way, Ms. Wethel, because I think that's the really important piece here. Because the title itself is a bit of a misnomer, because it does make it sound like we're walking away from what we are doing to enforce historic preservation and all these different things. And the Historic Preservation Commission is for this for some reason. But it really is. I mean, it's basically cleaning up red tape that gets in the way of what we are trying to do to make sure that we are moving forward with historic preservation and enforcing historic preservation where need be, enforcing the proper codes at the right times, those types of things. We basically have another code that supersedes this, and this has barely ever been used, so there's no reason to keep it on the books. That's kind of what we're at.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, good. So I appreciate this conversation. I think it's helpful to have it just to make sure that we're clear with everybody, but thank you very much for your work on it, Alexis, and everyone who's involved. Legal department as well, I'm sure. Okay, so the motion here is to receive and file and waive the 3 readings. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Jones and a second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Jones. Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 4 is ordinance amendment abutting property owner liability for defective sidewalks.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Rousseau.
I move to receive and file and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Rousseau and a second by Wethel. Krena, please.
Senior Counsel Barry Lindahl is recommending City Council adopt an amendment to correctly state Iowa law for Ordinance Section 10-1-2 entitled Sidewalk Installation and Repair, deleting liability of the abutting property owner for failure to repair sidewalks. The current language was adopted by the City Council based on an Iowa City ordinance following the opinion of the Iowa Supreme Court in Madden versus City of Iowa City at 848 Northwest 2nd 40 in 2014, which upheld the liability of an abutting property owner for sidewalk defects. In Split Gerber versus Bankers Trust Company, decided June 14th, 2024, for which we don't quite have the citation yet as it hasn't yet been published, the Iowa Supreme Court overruled Madden. And to quote, to the extent it permitted the imposition of sidewalk maintenance duties and liabilities beyond what the legislature has expressly authorized in Iowa Code 364.1 sub 2, end quote. Although that section of the Iowa Code does not provide for liability for failure to promptly remove ice and snow from sidewalks, it does not provide for liability for other sidewalk defects. The attached ordinance amends Section 10-2-1, removing the liability language. The city still has the authority to require the abutting property owner to make repairs to sidewalks and to assess the cost to the property owner if the city makes the repairs. The city manager concurs with the recommendation and respectfully requests mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Krena. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Ms. Farber.
Krena, could you and just kind of explain this a little more specifically about who's liable and what they would be, or formerly were liable for, and what they are now not liable for?
Yes. So in 364.12, I'm trying to pull up one piece of information here. Give me 1 second. We can send a notice to the abutting property owner if we're aware of a defect, and we have staff who go out and actively are paying attention to those things. It's staff within the engineering department. The abutting property owner would be responsible for repairing the sidewalk for defects, whether they're caused from age or heaving or trees, things of that nature. We give them that notice and the opportunity with the set time frame to have it done by. If they don't do that, and we have not intervened at that point in time to make the repair, if someone is injured, we would have some liability stemming from that injury. So really what this does is it corrects the ordinance to clarify that, but it also is modifying our internal workings for how we do these things to make sure that if we give someone the notice and the opportunity to repair, when that deadline passes, we are on it so that it is repaired and we are not exposing the organization to liability for any injury.
So who's responsible for the trip and fall before the city gets involved?
For the city to be liable, we have to have notice and an opportunity to repair.
Okay.
So at that point, it would be with the, I believe it would be with the abutting property owner, but I can go back and clarify in the Split Gerber case.
Okay, because it says it removes the liability, but you're saying it's from the municipality, not from the homeowner?
It's removing the liability of the property owner if,
once the city takes over?
If they failed to repair and the city steps in and things like that. So in that interim, if there were to be an injury, we would have some liability during that window.
During the window that the city's repairing, during the window that...
So if the property owner has the notice and they're within that time frame to get it done,
who's liable?
Chances are we would both be named. If in the event there were an injury, we would of course argue that it was the property owner's responsibility because we were giving them an opportunity and a time frame to address it. The issue really comes down to when that time frame expires and the onus comes back to the city
for the
to
trip
do
and fall.
it. Right.
Okay.
So historically, the way the ordinance has read, that liability remains with the property owner. That is the piece of liability that is
It's
coming
now
out after the
changing.
split Gerber decision.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It's the reversion bit.
Gotcha.
That is
Okay,
new.
thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
So thank you. And so this could go back to the way it was before if the Iowa legislature changes things. This is because it doesn't match the law.
Yes, you are correct. And we have seen that happen in situations over the years where once a case is decided in a following or later session of the legislature, they have made corrections or changes in reaction to case law.
So if this is the case where the city has a liability, where might as well say citizens of Dubuque have a liability because someone doesn't keep their sidewalk up, is that what you're saying? Well, then why don't we just fix it and send the bill?
So the code says that in 364.12, you have to give notice and an opportunity to the abutting property owner.
So do we have to hire somebody new to go all around Dubuque every day to look at sidewalks? Because that's enormous.
So we also get referrals. So for example, think your mail carrier out on their route. In some cases, it comes in from walkers who are concerned about trip hazards on their, think like morning Grandview walkers, things of that nature. So we respond to all of those complaints, but we do have proactive staff that go out and look for those things. Again, we have to have a notice of a defect before there is a liability imposition.
Okay, any other questions or discussion needed? Okay. All right. Well, motion here is to receive and file and waive the 3 readings. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel. Jones. Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Roussel, second by Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 5 is remedy for fire department manager / administration wage compression.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
move to receive and file and approve.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Jones, second by Wethel. Krenna, please.
Chief Human Resources Officer Shelley Stickfort is recommending City Council approval of salary percentage increases effective July 1, 2024, in order to remedy the wage / salary compression that would exist for the management and administration ranks of Assistant Fire Chief, Division Chief, Bureau Chief, Deputy Fire Chief, and Fire Chief related to the percentage wage increases provided to union represented fire ranks per the collective bargaining agreement effective on July 1st, 2024. The city manager concurs with the recommendation and respectfully requests mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Krenna. Discussion. Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Just a quick comment, and the word is compression here, but I like to think of the word as unfairness, that we have the situation had become unfair, and some people say there's no such thing as fair, but I'll just say it's more just. If they don't want to think of less unfair, it is a more just way of dealing with this situation. So I am in favor of it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm. We have, I will say, we've already had this discussion pretty extensively, and it surrounded the police department and what we were dealing with the similar type of wage compression in that department. And I think there's a little bit less discussion here on this particular issue, because I think from what I'm sensing at least, is that we kind of just get that, well, yeah, that's what the issue we just dealt with, and now we need to deal with it on the fire department level as well. What I will say is I really appreciate the attention that's been given to this. I appreciate both the fire department and police department stepping up and saying this is happening and this is something that we need to discuss, and our human resources department taking a very active look at it, along with our city manager and our ability to make some changes that can help. So hopefully this is a change that will help and help for a while. We will continue to keep a close eye on this because I think it's really important that we make sure that the wages are in line with what they need to be able to continue to attract and retain very qualified firefighters and paramedics and professionals in these roles. So I appreciate that we're still having this conversation and still working on this, and hopefully this is going to provide the relief that we need here.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah,
I just wanted to thank everybody for the due diligence as well, because the details, the devil is in the details here. And there was just a lot of comparative work that had to be done. There was some analysis that was quite analytic in terms of the current, the future, and then the compression of the rates. And I think as you would compare this to corporate America, cost of living adjustments are very important for the personnel. And in here, we're doing a little catch up, and hopefully we have satisfied that need. And it looks like through the arbitration, it has done so. So I think it's dynamic. And then we will always, as you just said, have an open conversation when it comes up next to see if we're meeting the needs, because public safety is our number one priority. And we are just greatly appreciative of everything that the fire department does for us. And this is the least we can do, is to help get them up to speed. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Farber. Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I just wanted to go back again. I mentioned earlier goals and priorities, and some of our goals and priorities are very narrowed, such as in the past when we prioritized Sutton Pool or the RAISE grant. This really relates to city workforce retention and attraction. When we did that, we made it a very broad goal, and we didn't have specifics of how we were going to do it, but we knew we needed to do it. Mm-hmm. And so as those pieces of information were brought forward to us, I feel that we have really, and staff has really worked hard to take action and do it now. And we did it because it was a priority. So I'm grateful, as you said, for fire and police bringing forward their needs that they need, what they need to retain their staff and attract their staff. So thank you, Chief. I know you're here today, and you're such a great partner. Thank you.
Okay. Well, motion here is to receive and file and approve. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Motion passes 7-0.
Council member reports.
All right. Reports heading into the holiday. Mr. Resnick.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Part of the RAISE grant that we received is for the bike and hike trail system too. Help us get on and off of Chaplain Schmidt Island. I just want to let you know that my wife and I were on a 10-day jaunt, and every other day we took our tandem bike with us, and we picked out 5 different places along the route. Every other day we had a 30-mile bike ride. And the reason we picked those communities is because of that bike hike trail. And, it was fantastic. So I think, that it's active recreation. It showcases the area. You see community in lots of different ways. We've got a lot of natural beauty around here, and I just love it when people can come and see it. I was down at the Greenway, the Bee Branch Greenway, and we had a visitor from DeWitt, and he and his wife were going to do the trail. He wondered, how he could, where was the Heritage Trail Pass? Where could he buy one? Well, no one was open and you couldn't buy one, right? But people come because they want to do these trails. And so I just wanted to say, I'm glad we support the improvement of our trails in and around Dubuque. There's a lot of excitement in other communities with these trails, and we've got such great natural beauty around here. Let's enhance it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Roussel.
Thank you. One of the boards that I sit on as a council representative is the Dubuque Main Street Board. And last week I had the great opportunity to help host 8 representatives from Japan Main Street. And 2 of them were city council members from cities in Japan. And we had a family of a wife and 2 youngsters that are helped to translate. And we took them on a tour of Dubuque. We went on the 4th Street elevator. We went past the B branch. We went out to the Block and Dam, and they were extremely impressed with our community. And we just had a great time together. It was just a wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rousseau. Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I've spoken at council before with all of you about Safe in School initiative that I'm collaborating with the Community Foundation of Greater Dubuque on to try and lift up the topic of how we can encourage connectedness and belonging of families and children in our city and look at ways to ensure school safety. And so I've had the privilege now, along with the Community Foundation leadership, of meeting with both Holy Family Catholic Schools as well as Dubuque Community School leadership. I'd like to thank Phil Borman and Amy Hawkins for their collaboration and their willingness to meet and talk and have really, I felt like, deep discussions about how city can collaborate, community can collaborate with their organizations as well. I wanted to share there is going to be a community conversation specifically for educators at the Rural Teacher Summit, July 9th at the National Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium. Registration is up until June 25th, and it's for educators. And when we say rural, we do mean Dubuque as well as other outlying areas. But the summit is from 2:30 to 7 p.m., and they are going to have a community conversation as well as their other planned speaker and events. Also, we're going to host at the Back to School Bash, which is actually around the corner more than we think, August 3rd from 11 to 2. And I'll have more details about that, and I'm sure we'll hear more about it moving forward. But we're going to hope to also have options to openly discuss with children and families what they feel will make them to feel safe in their school and what we can do to bring connectedness and belonging to them in our city. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, go ahead.
Got a few celebrations coming up this week. I'd just remind people that fireworks are illegal in the city of Dubuque to use. If you're going to Hawthorne Street area, please leave your fireworks at home. Please leave your pets at home. They're scared to death. And your animals are going to act differently when they're frightened than when they're not. So a biting incident could occur that from an animal that you'd never ever expected from, and all that chaos. So please, 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 for the sake of your pets and for the sake of your friends and neighbors, leave the pets, leave the fireworks at home.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Well, the only report I have is I did get to attend another U.S. Conference of Mayors meeting. This one I mentioned earlier tonight was in Kansas City. And this one was it was the busiest U.S. Conference of Mayors meeting that I've attended yet. And it was fantastic. You know, I mentioned our partnerships earlier. One of the things that happens at these meetings is we have opportunities to have pretty frequent discussions with members of different federal departments. So we've some folks that we know pretty well because we've seen them when we've gone out to Washington, D.C., but then we also see them when they come here. You know, I had multiple meetings. So the EPA, we're good friends with the EPA here in Dubuque. We mentioned the B branch here earlier. You know, those types of projects have been really important, and they continue to be so. The Department of Transportation, spoke to the Department of Transportation pretty frequently, unsurprisingly, and also thanked them pretty frequently once I found out about the great news about the RAISE grant. And then also had a direct meeting with the regional administrator from Housing and Urban Development, which I thought was really helpful. He actually called the meeting and was inviting mayors who were there to be able to speak with him. And I thought that was a really helpful meeting to be able to discuss the different initiatives that we have, the challenges that we've had with housing, and also working with some of the programs with housing and urban development. So we were able to have a pretty honest discussion about those things. And then all the way to, the staff from the White House were there as well, and were a part of pretty frequently working with everyone who was there. So along with the ability to speak with other mayors from other cities who are doing things. And, I want to just close with this. We have some challenges, and there are things that we are working really hard on fixing, but we are doing really well. I mean, this city is doing really well. We have figured some things out that other cities are struggling with quite a bit. Housing is a great example. And the bigger you get, the more challenging that discussion really becomes as a city. And, we try to, as we do when we go to any conference with other professionals, you try to learn from each other. We talked a lot about just stealing each other's ideas, just outright, very openly, just if it's a good idea, take it. And, I think about that frequently when I'm discussing these things. And I'll bring some of it to goal setting when we talk about it. That has to do with sustainability, talk a little bit about some of the housing pieces, but then also just the recognition that we really are figuring some things out. And I know we've got continued challenges. None of us at this table are going to be satisfied. We're just going to keep on pushing and trying to make sure that we continue to make improvements. But I want to make sure that we recognize and step back as we stop to celebrate ourselves and our country and our community in general, that we really do recognize that there are some really good things going on here. We have really good people doing really good work. So I want to thank everybody for that. And as we get ready to celebrate the 4th safely, hopefully, but also really, in a way that we all can come together. It's one of those chances where we get to see each other a lot and come together in very large groups, and those are good times. So I hope that we can do that and also recognize that we live in a really, really great place. So with that, we have a closed session and a little bit more work yet tonight, so I'll entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
move that the City Council go into closed session in accordance with Chapter 21.5 of the Code of Iowa to discuss purchase or sale of real estate.
A motion by Jones, second by Roussel. For the record, the attorney the City Council will consult with in the issues to be discussed in closed session is City Attorney Krenner Brumwell. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Resnick.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. We are in closed session.